Hey everyone, this is Dan with the Spiritual Underground Podcast, coming to you from my home here that I call DTM Enterprises. We've been bringing in some guests. Well, let me start here. If you're just coming upon this podcast, it's primarily 12-step recovery based. I'll just stop there because I want to keep the time. And what we've been doing lately is I've been having some guests come in and talk about other things you can do, because that's the thing is, once you get that monkey off your back, it's what do I do next? And how do I keep that flow coming into my life, the flow of goodness and fun and joy, and then also, which also helps me go through the not so good times when they inevitably come. So I've got the guests of the Innerbloom podcast with me today, Ambrosia and Alexa. Why don't you say hi each?
Hello. Thank
Hi.
you for letting us be here.
You're very welcome. I'm glad. I want to take a couple months off from podcasting, so I'll put that out into the universe. And, guests just started flowing in out of nowhere.
Oh, nice.
I know it. I love how that happens. I put out new content every Sunday, and for the most part through the year, I just do it as a just in time. I'll do a podcast one week and release it, but I'm banking a few here now. So tell me about what the Innerbloom podcast is about, and I know you've got things going on besides just a podcast too.
Yeah, Alexa, go ahead.
Yeah. So Ambrosia and I met about a little over 5 years ago now. Actually, ironically, I was hosting another podcast and she was someone I was interviewing. And it was a really interesting connection. The moment that we met, we just could not stop talking. My husband and I traveled from Philadelphia to Virginia to go stay at her house like 3 weeks after we met. Everyone thought we were crazy, but we just had this knowing that we had known each other on, a deeper level, and that we had a very strong attraction to like spending time together, talking, developing something together. And the reason for that is because the subject matter of what we were talking about was spirituality and concepts beyond which I'd say the majority of people consider to be, quote, normal. And it was such a healing experience for us to be able to relate and feel like we had a safe space to talk to each other about all of these things. And it brought out the best sides of us. So after recognizing that in our connection, we were like, well, there must be so many other people out there who feel the same way, who feel like they can't talk about these things, who feel like they're weird, who feel like maybe something's wrong with them or something.
Yeah.
And
talk about the woo-woo kind of things.
Yes, exactly.
And it's hushed too, I don't know about the way you were brought up, but it was considered, it was looked down upon, and people who did it were weirdos, and and whether if I believe that or not, that's what it was taught to me.
Yeah. 100%.
Absolutely. And it's still kind of taught that way. And I think it's also, even if you just want to go beyond the woo-woo, it's almost like we're taught to ignore our own intuition about who we are and what we want as individuals and what we feel we want to express as individuals. It's almost as if, as soon as you go into the school system, it's like, none of what you want or feel really matters. What matters is what we're teaching you and what you can remember and spit back at us. And I think that's why so many of us now are spending so much time kind of trying to re-find ourselves and rediscover ourselves. And anyway, so Ambrosia and I, we decided to start this podcast called Innerbloom Podcast. And that was 5 years ago, and 600 something episodes later, we're still doing it. And Ambrosia, do you have anything you want to add?
The only thing I want to add is that I feel like one of the biggest things was to allow people to feel included and allow people to not feel alone. And I think that that's something that we all can relate to, no matter what your beliefs are, is this feeling of isolation and this feeling of being alone. And it's nice when you have, like, that's the one of the great things of church, right? Or organized religion, is you have a community around you. And so that's what we wanted to embody, and not a church, but a community of people that were like-minded and that had similar views, and we've achieved that. So it's great.
Yeah, it is. That's exactly what we do. I mean, it's the same thing in 12-step recovery. It's just, and we actually have a little program here in Louisville that my sponsor started, and with my assistance, where we're offering the 12 steps to people who don't drink and drug and don't have the problems,
Mhm.
because they, just like you're talking about, there are people out there looking for that, or secretly wanting that. I don't know that they can even look for it, because they might be thinking they're looking for something that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is putting that out there, and that's really cool. That's because everybody, we call it systems and institutions. I say it stepped on my spirit. As I grew up, I was born perfect, and then I started, going into the systems and institutions of the world, and I got really confused about who I was.
Mhm.
And that led me to dope and booze, because that was
Yeah.
a place where I could find this community that I was looking for. It's just the
Mm.
wrong one, and the fact of the matter was, it was a lot of fun for a lot of years until it wasn't anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So y'all must be rocking the podcast episodes. I've been going 5 years, and I have half as many as you do.
We
Well,
recorded like 3 times a week for a little
Yeah.
bit,
Yeah.
and now we record twice a week. So
yeah, and we're probably moving down to one, honestly, because we had energy back
lot.
then. Now at first Ambi just had kids, and now I also have kids, and it's 5
I
years
don't cheat,
later, and
man.
we're just but that being said, I mean, I think what you're talking about with like recovery and with addiction, and like the 12-step program, I mean, I think all of first of all, I think it's amazing that something like the 12-step program exists for people, or something like AA exists for people, because I think what it's revealing, the more time goes on.
Everything's okay. I just saw
Sorry,
a blink.
guys.
It was just a blink.
Okay.
Yeah.
It didn't even stop.
Okay, great. I think what that's revealing to us is that the most healing and powerful thing is community and connection and recognition and
Yeah.
vulnerability. And when we feel, as Ambrosia, you were talking about earlier, isolated, whether it's in our experiences or our views or our perceptions of ourselves or the world, whatever it is, that's when we turn to something that will help us escape our bodies or, numb out, because it's just so hard to not be yourself in this world. It's painful.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Ambrosia and I, our biggest thing with our podcast and our podcast community is helping you connect with yourself on a deeper level, but also helping you connect more with your intuition, because your intuition is that little voice that talks to you and tells you, hey, go check this out. For example, if you've been feeling stuck in your life and there's this little voice that's like, hey, maybe you should go to this painting class. And you're like, why would I do that? I don't paint, and that's weird. And there's the mind that will get in the way and be like, I don't want to do that. But that intuition is trying to nudge you in the direction of your heart and your soul, and it's trying to lead you there through the path of least resistance. And so the easier you can just listen and trust that voice, the easier it is that I think you'll find what you're looking for. You'll find the community that's waiting for you. You'll find all the things you're asking for. It's just that, again, I think we're so often taught to strengthen the mind and not strengthen the intuitive connection.
Yep, definitely. It was, I kind of 12 steps tricked me into stopping the dope, but what it gave me was ideas like that. I have a very, I guess you could say, progressive sponsor.
Yeah.
And I heard a guy that this little saying has been stuck in my head the last few days, was on a podcast the other day. So wisdom is the ability to obey your conscience. Your not your conscience like from your, just like you're talking about your intuition, your spirit, your soul, and actually follow that lead that comes, because it will tell you what to do if you can get tuned in and listen. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
it'll tell
that's
you
kind
who
of
you
fundamental
are.
right and wrong thing. You know what you're not supposed to be doing and what you should be doing. You know that. Go ahead.
And
I'm sorry.
I think that's where we have this conflict of when someone tells you that you're a bad person or that you're this type of person, and you know in your heart that you're not. you know that in your heart what they're saying is not true, whatever it may be, that's your gut, that's your intuition, that's your spirit, that's a higher being telling you you're not that person. You're maybe making wrong choices, but you're not that person, right? And I think that what we feel a lot of the times when we feel disconnected from who we are is we feel our potential, and our potential is telling us that we're meant for more. We just can't see where that more is. But we've all felt that. I mean, I felt that last week. So that is not something that will go away. But I also think that that's why we're here, to experience that. I think a lot of the times people assume that we're supposed to be happy all the time, and that's not it. We're actually here to experience the wide variety of emotion that you experience being on Earth.
Yeah, some of this is being, finding out and becoming who I am, but it felt like more of it was stop being who I am not.
Yeah, that's
Put
beautifully
down.
said.
We've talked about that a lot in the podcast and used the metaphor of, it's almost like putting down who you are not. It's almost like you realize that you've been wearing all these coats that like aren't really, that you don't want to be wearing. And you're like, what? Whoa, like it's hot. You're just slowly kind of taking off these coats, like taking off these layers that don't fit you, that are uncomfortable, and just kind of getting more and more to that core of you, and that kind of lightweight, like nimble version of you, where it's all really in alignment. And that, to Ambrosia's point as well, it doesn't mean that there's not bad days or bad times or confusing, it doesn't mean that it's just an upward trajectory forever. There more. But I think when you feel in alignment and in resonance with who you are, what you're about, what you're not about, when those rough times come, which they will, because that's part of life. And if that wasn't part of life, it would be a really uninteresting life. You're able to glide through it a lot easier than if you have no idea who you are and you're just reacting, I think that's been a key to like my healing. And I'm curious too, from the 12-step perspective, is that what the goal is, or what is the goal of the 12-step program?
Well, obviously it's to get you off the substances.
Yes. Right.
Because you're not going to find yourself as long as you're lost in that.
Yeah.
And then, if I was going to boil it down to that, it's the same thing of what you're all saying. It's allowing me a course and a set of guidelines to use to become who I'm supposed to be. We do talk, it's anchored on a lot of people confuse it and think that, the classic spirituality religion conflict, that we use the word God a lot, but I you're encouraged to find one of your understanding, whatever that is, if that's your higher self, if nature. I have no idea what it is, but I know it's working for me. That's all I know. And I wouldn't even begin to think that to claim that I knew something. But yeah, that probably the bottom line is to enable you to become the person the universe made you to be. Live your life to the fullest. There's a whole lot of side things. My sponsor and I joke around a bit because whatever happens to be at the moment is what we will say. Well, the best thing about recovery is this and this and this, and we've got all these things that are the best. But truly, that it brings together that community. I have my home group is a men's group, and we have a wonderful, just an awesome group of men that are helping other people. And with we get new guys, a constant stream of new guys, and there's probably nothing. I don't know if there's anything more fulfilling than to take a guy who is beat down with that, and play that part in his life to allow him to bloom and become this completely different person. And I know that for myself too, because I'm a completely different man than I was 9 years ago. And I love watching that happen. I love watching the spirit bloom. And this is a place where you'll probably get a lot of that too, where you get to watch people come in. Like I say, they come in kicking their shoestrings. They can't look you in the eye. They think they're pieces of crap. They've really made a mess of their lives. and watch in a relatively quick time that all turn around. And then, it gives me a set of operating principles too, because I always said, I don't think I was there. I have great parents, so I can't lay a lot of people in addiction recovery stuff don't have that. There's a
Yeah.
lot that don't. But I do. I hit the jackpot in the parent department, but I still fell for the world's traps, and I feel like I didn't learn like operating guidelines somehow or another, and they were demonstrated to me. My dad lives with me. He's one of the best guys anybody will ever meet, and but for some reason I couldn't see that. And the 12 steps gave me some operating guidelines, some ways to do life, some
Structure.
do here, yeah, some structure, and and also allow me to, we say improve your conscious contact with God as you understand Him. So that's and Bill used the term in there to seek out practitioners of various kinds in that
I like
effort.
that.
Yep.
And so that's a pretty big thing. And I guess one of the cool things about this podcast is I keep on getting to meet these people that are practitioners of various kinds, and get to soak up some of what you all are bringing to the table. And I also get to meet a whole lot of people that are actually being a force for the good in the world, because if you're not looking in the right direction, it looks like the world can look pretty bad.
Yeah.
100%.
I don't know that I'm undecided if that's the truth or not, because I
like
keep
that.
meeting people like you all.
Yeah. That's a nice perspective. I like that perspective. How do you feel? I just want to interview you for a second. How do you feel? I just think it's amazing what you're doing with men, because I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong in this because I'm not a man, but I feel like men aren't allowed to have emotion. And I feel like we're starting an age where men are allowed to have emotion, but they're also now being called soft, and they're being kind of diminished or being treated as less than because they have emotion, which everybody has. So I guess my question is, I know that for me, I didn't have a great childhood. And I was angry for a really long time, right? So my question, but under that anger, after doing a lot of therapy, is sadness and fear. And so when you are helping men, do you see that anger, or do you see fear, or how is that normally presented to you?
Yeah, well, it's demonstrated in our weekly meetings of people being vulnerable when we get in and we share.
Yeah.
And our group guys come and they go, I've never been in a meeting like this before.
Yeah.
Where are more of these kind of meetings? And I'm like, well, I'll go to a lot of meetings around here, and this is the only one that's like this. But to be able to allow the same kind of, as that same thing as earlier, is you'll watch men being themselves and exhibiting whatever emotion happens to be on the table at the moment. And we get in this one-on-one relationship, which we a sponsor-sponsee thing, and I was coached, on how to do that. I was given permission to do that, and I've learned from a guy who is just a master at this stuff. He's also an addiction substance abuse counselor at a local treatment place, but and I try to model what he does. So I get a guy over here, and I don't let him get away with trying to put his wall up in front of me. Take that mask off in front of me, man. It's just me and you. You can, tell me how you really feel. How are you? I'm fine. I'm okay. And it's a practice, right? You don't get it right off the bat. You have to continue to practice that, and continually, I'm learning stuff today that there was no way I was in a position to learn when I was 1, 2, 3 years sober. You just keep on doing it. But we do encourage and promote that stuff, and of being yourself, allowing your emotions. Guys get up and cry right in front of 50 other men, and if you're brand new and you're a dude and you come in there and you see some guy come up there and share and shed tears while he's talking to, it's a whole new experience. And that's the way I felt when I first hit that group too. I come in there doing the same old dance that I was fine. I'm okay. Meanwhile, I'm looking at 6 to 20 years in prison in Indiana, and I'm standing here telling these people I'm fine. I'm
Yeah.
a furthest thing from fine. I'm facing that prison sentence and I still can't stop.
Yeah.
I'm out on bail and I still can't stay sober. And but eventually, one day after those guys demonstrating that stuff, and it wasn't an act and it wasn't on purpose, and I had no intention of doing it, but they ask if anybody has a burning desire at the beginning of a meeting, something that you really need to talk about. And I got up there and told them guys what was really going on with me. And I cried that night. And
Mm.
the guy who I wanted to be my sponsor, who I was too afraid to ask,
Mm.
walked straight up to me after that meeting and said, "I want to sponsor you." This guy I've been looking at for a month or 6 weeks or something, because I hear what he's talking and what he's saying is resonating with me.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do it. One reason was I was testing there telling everybody I was okay. Uh,
Mm.
but yeah, and it's one of them turning points in life. When I walked out that meeting that night, the stars were brighter and there was something different. And I knew the trajectory of my life was going to take a big turn if I'd let it.
Mm. That's
It's like-
beautiful. Do you think that, so sorry. Did you have to go to AA meetings like as part of your probation?
Nope. I got a DUI when I was 16 was my first one, and they sent me to AA, and then I got another one when I was 19 and they sent me to AA again, but I couldn't hear anything and I didn't remember, I didn't have a problem back then. I got a problem. My problem is I got caught.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but I had started dipping my toe in AA about 4 years from my current sobriety day. So about 2011, I started dipping my toes in it because my marriage was crashing and I was grasping at straws. I knew I had a problem by then, but I still couldn't let go. So I had some experience around 12-step recovery. And the way I describe it is when I got to that point in summer 2014, when I committed that crime that I got caught doing, those charges was hanging over me. I felt like I was inside of a cardboard box painted black. I mean, there was no light anywhere, but there was a little pinhole in the corner, and it was the 12 steps. And this was really just for me. It was a Hail Mary pass. It was just a half court shot. It was try something, and the fact of the matter was that was the only thing out there that I could find. That was my only choice. And I say I pushed all my chips to the middle of the table and did it to my fullest. And the courts didn't even know I was doing it. When I was in one of my arraignments, my lawyer told me I should go to treatment, and it looked good. And when he said that to the judge, he said, "Mr. Reeves is going to is going to enter treatment next week." And he said, "I don't care what Mr. Reeves does. If he thinks he needs to go to treatment, he can go to treatment. What I'm here to do is deal with the crime that he has committed." And like I said, they said 6 to 20 years, and I ended up being sentenced to I was a year of home incarceration, a year of probation, and then the third year was shelved.
Wow.
Pending successful completion of that. And I did catch a felony, and that's life-changing in itself. But just this past spring, the 8 years went by and I went through the stuff in the courts and all that and got that expunged. So all that happened, and I know all that happened as a result of me working this program. It would not have happened.
That's
There's
amazing.
miracles that happen in the lives when you change this stuff, when you take this path. And I have a list in my telephone. It's my miracle list. It's like a long-term gratitude list of all the cool things that has happened as a result of this. And many of them can't be explained, and most of them wouldn't mean a lot to you, but it meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's
such a powerful thing you're such a powerful example, I'm sure, just as I think you shared that others were examples to you. I think nothing is more powerful than seeing someone else who you identify with do it, And so I'm sure when you encounter these men who, like you said, have all these walls up, they're able to see in you at some point your success and your ability to move forward. And I'm sure maybe before meeting you, they don't even know, like you said, you're in that black box. You don't even know if there's a way forward at all. And that's why I think it's so important that there are people like you, people who are working on themselves intently and trying to find a way forward, because those people not only are bettering their lives as you have, and it's an amazing story, but you're also like a way shower for others. And
Carrying the message.
Yeah.
absolutely. And I also had a question for you. I was like,
We're just
I could be on your
interviewing you now.
podcast.
yeah, please do, because we have a lot of questions. Yeah. Do you, are there people who come in, because I know a part of the 12, so my dad was an alcoholic before I was born. He's been sober since I was born, but I do know a bit about the 12-step program. And I know one part of it is like acknowledging that there is a higher power, right? And I'm curious, do people ever come into the program and are just like heavily resistant to acknowledging that in any way?
It's
And
probably the biggest hurdle.
yeah, because why?
Well, one thing is the God they're thinking of ain't the God we're talking about.
Right.
It's we truly do mean this, and I don't know if I didn't believe when I got here. It wasn't that I like rejected it in whole, but I rejected a lot of it. There was a lot of messages being sent to me that my inner child, my inner self rejected. So it was tough to hear some of these messages that I was getting taught. Set up a lot of boundary, a lot of walls up from being acceptable to that. But my sponsor kind of told me what to do. He suggested these things in a very nice way, but I know that it was, if you want this, here's what you will do. And I started getting up and asking a power, something I didn't understand, for help every morning. And that was one of the things that he said, that was a requirement for me to do. And it's the same thing I do now. And if you don't know how to pray, here, I got a prayer right here you can say. And for the longest time, you know what I did? I taped this and printed out prayer to my dresser next to my bed, because I would forget to do that. And I just, and all I did was grabbed it off there and read it every morning. I didn't, I wasn't getting on my knees. I wasn't standing at an altar. I wasn't doing any of that. I was just asking the universe for help and trying to mean it. And I didn't, that those charges were really beneficial to me. They made me need to do something. I did not want to. I don't think I'm prison material. I did not want to go there. So it was, again, a Hail Mary. But yeah, it's probably the biggest block coming, and we don't do it right off the bat. There's the 12 steps are a beautifully, I would almost say maybe the best personal development program, because it is step, and you just do it, and every time it's like a human washing machine. If you will do what I ask you to do, because I can say this, a man said this to me, and I say it quite often. He's looked at me when 2011, when I first stuck my toes in 12-step recovery in AA. He said, if you got this thing called alcoholism, this thing that I got, I guarantee you that if you will work these steps and practice these principles in your daily life, your life's going to get a whole lot better. He guaranteed me. Of course, my mind went into, there's no guarantees but death and taxes. Don't give me that bull crap. But I sat there and listened to him and nodded. But he also said something else. He goes, but I guarantee you, if you have this thing called alcoholism, this thing I got, and you don't work these steps and you don't practice these principles, your life's going to get a whole lot effing worse. He didn't abbreviate it. And he was right. See, he had a crystal ball. 4 years later, my life was in the toilet, man. And today I say the same thing. I guarantee you that if you'll do this stuff, because it has all these elements, and we don't jump into God out of the beginning. We talk about this thing like it's a disease, and understanding that we've got a problem, because if you don't think you got a problem, you're not going to fix anything.
100%.
And a few months, after about 6 weeks, the way we do it, then we'll get into talking about, let's turn, we have a third step that says we're going to make a decision to turn our will and life over to care of God as we understand them. And then that's still not doing it. That's just making a decision, and I'm going to start acting this way. And then the momentum builds, because your life starts getting better and something is working, and why not stick with it? Now, did your dad continue to participate in AA, or because some people just get sober and they just go on with their lives, and then other people get sober like me, and then I spend most of my life's energy in 12-step recovery.
Yeah, it's kind of been in and out throughout my lifetime. Like I remember he was kind of more in it at times when I was younger, and then he would kind of come out again. And now he does like another form of like a group therapy, and I don't think he goes to AA as much. But I mean, when I was in my late teens and in college, he took me to a couple of he asked me to come to a couple of meetings with him then, so I know he was going then. And he also brought me to like an Al-Anon meeting. And yeah, I mean, and this is before I was into any form of spirituality. Like my spiritual connection, awaken, whatever you want to call it, really happened about like 6 to 8 years ago. I don't know, I'm so bad with the count now, but within the last decade. And before that, I was like God, or I was very averse, you know? And I think that's probably because I just wasn't ready to meet myself truly yet. There were so many masks and walls and things I was using to distract myself that I don't know, that wasn't of interest to me. But
You probably had to
then
hit a bottom of some sort, just like
it,
we did. You had to come to
that's
some
what,
spot where you really had to make it. You had to turn left or right. You could not continue to
exactly,
go straight anymore.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
same
And
thing
in a
happened
way,
to us.
And in a way, that's, even though it's, everyone can probably tell you a similar story about their moment, like you did, where you hit your bottom and you're like, oh my God, like things have to change, and it becomes so clear. Even though it's probably such a hard moment in your life, it also, when I look back at it, I'm like, man, what a relieving moment that there was only that one option. It was like so clear what you had to do. You know, it was so
Well,
clear, this new way you kind of had to start thinking. And I think it's interesting. I don't know, the relief that comes with the simplicity in a way sometimes. But I wanted to ask you, why do you think it is that is the piece, not why do you think it is that that's the hardest piece, the surrendering to a higher power, but why is that the piece that starts to change things, do you think?
that's a good
It
question.
is in parallel with this deal on going with the flow of life, allowing the universe to guide me. And that, that goes with getting in touch with my intuition. It's me stopping running the show. I'm no
Yeah,
longer in charge. When I do, when I bullhead my way through things, they don't go too well. And I have been running my own show for a long time, and that surrender to the universe, allowing myself to get into the stream of life rather than swimming upstream. You don't know you're swimming upstream. You don't think you are, but jumping in that and allowing the universe to guide you. That's probably more in line with what this third step in our use of higher power is, more as much as anything. It is. I'm no longer running the show. Some of that, comes in the forms if I'm gonna make it, and I ask my guys, if you're gonna make any major decisions, or if you're making some decisions in your life, talk to me about it. It's not because I know, but because I think the universe shines on this sponsor relationship. And when I
yeah,
talk to my sponsor about things, I make a higher quality decision on what I'm going to do. When I'm no longer running the show, I'm letting somebody else in and,
yeah.
and asking for that advice. That's a good question, though. I hadn't really actually gave it thought like that. And I do
Yeah.
like it. I get 12-step guys in here and we beat these concepts up until they're, it's just so cool and it's fun. And so,
Yeah.
So this is the third time someone has suggested to me in 2 days, to let the universe decide, let God, and just relax, stop trying to control everything. I
relax
think
and
that's
take it easy.
another way that God, the universe, works, is through human interaction too.
Mhm.
If you hear the same message over and over and over, that is a sign for you. That is something to pay attention to and listen. So when you started saying that, I was like, all right, I am listening. I will do my
Yeah,
best to
me
let
too.
go of control.
Yeah.
So
I do
And
a little thing when I hear something, and I don't know where it comes from, it'll be something, and I'm like, okay, I'll do it.
like reluctantly, oh,
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
yeah, because sometimes you can know what's best, but it doesn't mean it's easy to do what's best, or
Right.
doesn't mean you don't have resistance or annoyance about it,
We're
Mhm.
all got a self-serving nature. It's just part of the human condition. If it's going to be something that's going to disrupt my lifestyle, I don't want to do that. Or if it's going to be hard, I don't want to do that. And
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the same energy that resists that higher power kind of mentality. I can do it. And, I've been taught I can do it. If I just work hard enough and set my mind and I put enough time into it, I can do this by myself. And that's not right. I
Which
can't.
is harder
Yeah,
and
it is.
exhausting.
Yep. That's the little one of my favorite. I pick up 12-step recovery has so many great lines, little one-liners and little sayings. I don't think there's anything that's got any more of them, but one of the things is I couldn't get sober, but we can. Together we can. And as long as I'm standing out there on that island by myself, I'm never going to do it. I can't. It's
That's
impossible.
so beautiful.
Yeah. Because I mean, I know personally when I feel alone, that is when all my vices come out. Everything that I know is not healthy for me to do, I go right back to it every time. And I'm now in my 36th year of life, starting to finally slowly realize, oh, I need to push outside my comfort zone and call someone up and be like, hey, want to hang out? I need to do the thing that is uncomfortable and I need to connect, because that's what I'm trying to do with my vices. I'm just trying to feel connected in some way, but it's like a momentary second of connection and then it's gone. And then I feel even lonelier and emptier than ever. So it's like, I feel like it really, even when you know what to do, like we just said, it can take so long to slow down that pattern, like that groove that you automatically go in. It can take a while to recognize, oh, I'm doing it again. And now I have to very intentionally move myself off of that, which takes some energy and takes some intention, and go do this thing that isn't natural to me. It isn't in the groove, but I know that it is what I need. And and
course correcting. It's the same as driving down the road. You can't hold the steering wheel straight and go anywhere. You have to constantly, if you're sailing a boat, you can't go from point A to B. You have to be going back and forth. And one of the things I picked up on, I went to yoga teacher training a few years ago too. Something I've never, outside of my comfort zone. You told me I was going to do that, I'd have punched you in the nose. Are you calling me a sissy or what? But they talk about my true north alignment, and some of that comes into poses and your posture and stuff like that, but it also comes into watching my compass needle. And sure I'm going to my true north. It won't be the same as yours. It's not like a compass, or if we had 3 compasses, they'd all be pointing the same direction, but these compasses don't necessarily. So I got to be watching that and making the corrections to get back in alignment.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what kind of other things are you guys doing? Like, did you see something about a retreat or some other things that are, how are you all pull? Because you're doing the same thing, and that's the other thing I see. 12-step recovery is just a modality of this same thing as everybody else is doing. It's bringing people together, getting like-minded folks that give each other permission to be themselves and to lean on as we adjust to our compasses.
So we host retreats for women, and we are hosting our next retreat in October 12th through the 15th of this year in Virginia Beach. And what we're focusing on is going back to yourself, going back to who you truly are, which is everything that we've been talking about. So lines up perfectly, of course. But we do different ways of doing that. We tap into our intuition because that's what we do, and we teach you how to take that gut feeling home with you and how to listen to your body when your body feels a no as compared to when your body feels a yes. It's on the beach, so we're probably going to do the beach is so cleansing. The beach is so good for like letting go of memories, letting go of energy, letting go of things that you don't want to hold on to you anymore. And then we're going to do my favorite thing, which is screaming. And I think it's for a couple reasons, but I think that in our society, we're told to be quiet, to sit still, not to make too many waves. And so screaming really kind of goes against all of that. And whether you're a man or a woman, it's really uncomfortable to scream for the
Mhm.
first time. When someone gives you permission, you're not angry, you're just, okay, go ahead and scream. There's a lot of emotion that comes up because you're like, oh, I don't want to be seen or be loud or anything like that. But actually letting your light shine and being seen is why we're here.
Yeah, I love that. That's what I run a men's retreat that came organically myself, and
You so
I
should.
take
I'm
them out
glad you
into
do
the
that.
middle of the woods, and we go just like the beach. There's something cleansing about being out there in nature like that, being
Yeah.
where the those waves are a power greater than you. You're not
Yep.
going to stop them. You get to
Mhm.
witness that. And
Yeah.
I was getting to get in touch with your inner warrior, your
Mhm.
masculine side, and we yelled, and and I had them doing warrior yells. And by the end of it, I'm like on Sunday when I'm doing the talk on Sunday, I can't hardly talk. I'm
Yeah.
Yeah.
but that's really cool. I love that. That is
Mm.
so much in alignment. I just love it. It's kind of like the universe giving you when you talk to people like this, there's an affirmation that happens, that
Yes.
because we're doing the same thing, and there's no way we would be doing the same thing if it wasn't the right thing.
Yep.
And what you're doing is so important, because I do think there is a lack of this in the male community. And when retreats, especially for women, I feel like it's almost become trendy. It's like, oh, let's go on a retreat, let's go on a retreat, because we have permission as women to talk about our feelings and do this inner work
Mhm.
and all
Yeah.
of that. And so I love when I see that men are holding men retreats and are creating a space where, like you said, you can kind of cut the bullshit and just like really get in touch with what you guys are feeling, because like Amby said before, I don't think there's a lot of space right now, or there hasn't been historically, for men to talk about their feelings or share what's going on with them. And I know that, I'm sure the men that come out of your retreats are much more tapped in with their like their healed masculine, their empowered masculine, rather than like the wounded masculine. And acting out of that healed masculinity is so supportive to femininity, to women, and to like the feminine aspects on our planet. So that's just so beautiful. And I did want to add too that um another part of our retreats, in addition to like doing the healing as well and connecting with nature and all of that, is also just simply being together and having fun.
Mhm.
And I think, Ambrosia and I are both moms, and as you get older as a woman, you become a mom a lot of times. Sometimes you don't, but you just become more isolated, and you become more serious, and you become more, so much comes before and
Mhm.
think that there's just so many women we've talked to who they can't even remember the last time they left their house. They can't even remember the last time they took a trip. So many things they want to do, but they don't feel empowered to ask to be away from their children.
Or
Like,
they're
I'm,
afraid to be away from their families.
yeah.
They're worried that everything's going to fall apart when they leave. And I think that that's
And it
part
probably
of,
will. We'll let it.
yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be
That's
okay.
that's part of the problem, is that we all have this narrative of, if I don't juggle all of these balls in the air, everything's going to fall. And it's like, well, yeah, but you can't keep going at
Mhm.
that rate,
You can't learn a
because
new way if you don't
you're
let them
going to
fall.
fall
Yep, you
eventually.
end up in that other thing, what you end up trying to pour from an empty cup too, because
Mhm.
you've exhausted yourself, and you're
Yep.
going to try to nourish these children's lives with an empty cup, and you've got to give yourself permission to go take care of yourself.
100%.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. So that's another big part of it, is in addition to all the really fun, intuitive woo stuff we do and all of the healing things we do and the experiences we have, the other part of it is just being together and getting outside your comfort zone and taking, and even just the act of saying, I'm going to do this for myself. I'm going to take these 3 days. Our retreats are like 3 to 4 days. I'm going to take this time, and then I'm going to come back, and I'm going to be so recharged. So that's really important to us, to provide spaces where that can happen, and to create connections and have these women walk away being friends and having people they can talk to and call. And like, that's just, like we said, it's just, I think you lose friendship as you grow older a lot of the time. And I think, what do they say? Loneliness is like the most deadly epidemic. And I think that's so true, because like we said earlier, you go back to all your vices, you kind of turn into your worst self when you have no one to connect with. And so, yeah, retreats are really important to us. And it's really nice to meet someone else who values them in the same way and is doing the same thing.
Yeah, another funny cliche. I hear this more often than I want to, but people say, they will reason themselves out of doing stuff because they've got a lot going on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I make these little wooden chips. I'm a woodworker. I got wood shop in my backyard, and
Mm.
I was in corporate America, and that's a whole nother thing. And the universe plucked me out of there, and now I'm self-employed doing my own thing. But one of
Congrats.
my little chips says, "I have a lot going on," and it's a cop out. Yeah, you do, but you still got to find some way to pry this self-care stuff and take care of you. You have to.
Yeah. You're always going to have a lot going on.
You always are. Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, you don't have any more than anybody else got's going on either.
Yeah.
The rest of these guys showed up this weekend,
Yeah.
There's a bond that happens between the men that come and the men that don't.
I
People
bet.
who won't give themselves permission to come. And even to the point that some people say they're going to come and they cannot get there for some reason.
Yeah, we've had that happen.
There's no shows.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you talk to them, they got this big list of excuses about why they couldn't,
Mhm.
like one
Yep.
excuse would have been more believable than five.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
I used to be
the
really
bond is different.
I used to be really invested if people didn't come. I'd be like, oh God, what? And now I'm just
Or
like,
you would
"All
take
right."
it personally.
I would take it personally, like, why aren't we good enough that they want to come, right? They said they would come, they paid all this money, and now they don't want to come. And now I'm to the point of like, well, that's their stuff. That has nothing to do with me,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yep. My place doesn't have any cell phone coverage, and that's one of the things I
Oh.
love about it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
get to go check out, but it's out in the middle of the boonies, and sometimes I have to run up to the top of the hill and call some people because they're riding around lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have to
Yeah.
guide them in.
Yeah.
And it's but I understand that feeling of that, because I put mine on. I mean, I was putting myself out there and owning more of it than I should have to for a while.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
It's
think
hard.
that when you create something from your heart and people are like, no, thanks. It's like,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, exactly. It's
It's-
like, why?
It's also kind of like you can feel when you're supposed to do something, kind of like when it's flowing through you from the universe. And I feel like when you first start that, though, it doesn't mean it's going to be what it turns into. It kind of can start off very small and then it grows and grows and grows. But like, I think you can always feel when it's like, wait, no, there should be so many more people here, but it's your first one ever. So it feels almost, you have to like fight that mental, like something's wrong or I'm not doing it right. You have to fight that to be able to let the process unfold. And I feel like that's another thing as humans are so impatient. We like can't let the process unfold.
Why we jump to pills and other stuff to fix us. We want that solution right
Instant.
now. I don't want to
Exactly.
put in the time and the work that it takes to get the real solution. I want to pop a pill. I want
Exactly.
something fast.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Also, you just reminded me of a quote that I really love when you were talking about like the bond that's formed by the people who choose to come and versus the people who don't. It's like the quote is, when you aren't vulnerable, there's a lot less pain, but there's also a lot less love. Like you cannot selectively block out feelings. You can't be like, well, I'm not going to feel any pain, but give me the love though. It's like, no,
Yeah.
you're just saying, I don't want to feel.
Yep.
Yeah.
So something
Yep.
to keep in mind.
Brene Brown says something similar where she says, if you numb the pain, you also numb the opposite of that. You numb the love
You
and
numb.
pleasure and all that. And you don't get to do both, or you don't get to do one.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
What else you want to talk about? Talk about your podcast for just a second, and then because I know we're running short on time, but I have a female contingency. We have a wonderful group in this 12-step spiritual recovery. The women's group is just really powerful. They're getting ready to have their retreat in October as well.
Nice.
And
That's wonderful.
October is a good month for it.
Yeah. We have just about our podcast. We have so many episodes. If you're into personal development, spirituality, or if you're into some of the more woo-woo things, we love to use our intuition to do really fun things like readings and some mediumship stuff. So if that's what you're into, you can find that on our podcast. But that's not all our podcast is. A lot of it is about sharing vulnerably, like what we're going through and what our lives are like, and how even when you can feel what the right thing is to do, it's still really hard to do it, and all of that.
We had
And-
I'm gonna jump in. We
Yeah.
had an attachment therapist, attachment styles. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's basically goes over how you relate to people and how you can change that relationship with your children and different people that are important in your life. We had a relationship expert, several relationship experts on the podcast. So lots of mental health stuff too.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's another thing, you know, it's, I find it rare that like both sets of a couple are on the same growth trajectory, and there's a
Yeah.
conflict
Oh
there
my
too,
gosh.
and she is doing this and he ain't doing nothing, or vice versa.
Yeah.
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 How to manage that.
Yeah, it's hard. Relationships are so hard, and they're your biggest teachers as well. So they're so complicated and so layered, and it's already so complicated to sort yourself out and your own, what you are about. And then you have another person who you're so intimately connected with, who you're trying to sort their stuff. It's, so yeah, we bring on as much relationship stuff as we can find, not even just romantic though, like friendship,
Work.
children. Yeah. Work.
Yeah. We say finances and romances. Those are our two big
Finance.
things. Where
Yep.
we're getting our money, what we're doing with our money, all
Yep.
jobs and all that.
Mhm.
And then
Yep.
our romances, our
Ab-
primary relationship. Those are the two places the trouble comes from.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's true.
But yeah, and then if you want to dive deeper into your intuition, we do have an intuition course and community, and that's called Superbloom. But you
Super
can hear about,
corny. We like it.
yeah.
Go ahead.
But you can hear about all of that on the podcast, or if you want to check us out, you can go to innerbloompodcast.com or Innerbloom Podcast on any social. And yeah, that's kind of the pitch.
That's it.
I think it's like I said, I just love bumping into these people that are playing a force for the good in the world. We can't have enough of that. And I truly do believe, just like in the movies, the good will prevail.
Absolutely.
And I just believe that.
I do too. Thank
It's a
you.
nice perspective. I
Right.
like that.
It's been really nice to talk with you and meet you, and keep doing what you're doing. It's so
You as
inspiring.
well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
Okay.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
Okay.
Thank you so much,
Too.
Dan.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.